Welcome to the season finale of Clothes with a Conscience. The last time we met, at the start of our campaign, I had decluttered my closet and given my old clothes to be upcycled. This campaign made me realize that I'm a hoarder and I had way too many clothes in my cupboard. But I also like wearing new clothes. So this time, instead of buying new clothes, I have decided to do something else. Swap them. So here I have some clothes that I don't wear anymore. But they're good as new. And I'm sure there are people in the city who have the same problem. And I'm also sure that I can find people who will like my clothes as much as I might like theirs. Swapping is not even that hard. You can do it with your friends, with your cousins, or your siblings. And if size is a problem, there are always apps for it. One of them is this for that. You can upload your pre-used clothes here, get credit points for them, and then use those credit points to buy something someone else has uploaded to swap. Sounds great, but I bet you have as many questions about swapping as I do. We are going to hunt for the answers and have them ready for you a little later in the show. But first, here are the anchors for today's show.
नमस्कार, हाजिर है खास पेशकश के साथ वस्त्र या कपड़े जो हम पहनते हैं, बनाते हैं, जिनसे हमारी शख्सियत बनती है, निखरती है, सजती है। क्या उनकी अपनी भी कोई पहचान होती है? जी, हम बात कर रहे हैं क्लोथ विद अ कॉन्शियंस की। क्या उनके अस्तित्व को हम आज के वातावरण में एक महत्वपूर्ण भूमिका में ढाल सकते हैं? 10 लाख टन कपड़ा हर वर्ष हमारे देश में बर्बाद हो जाता है। विश्व भर में दूसरे नंबर पर फैशन इंडस्ट्री सबसे ज़्यादा पानी का प्रयोग करती है। आपको बता दें, कपड़ा उद्योग से ग्रीन हाउस गैस के एमिशन दुनिया भर में शिपिंग और अंतर्राष्ट्रीय हवाई यात्रा के एमिशन से भी ज़्यादा है। फैशन इंडस्ट्री द्वारा प्रदूषण टॉप 5 उद्योगों में शामिल है। हमारे देश में ये दूसरे नंबर पर प्रदूषण करने वाला उद्योग है। तो अब ऊषा और एनडीटीवी साथ मिलकर लोगों में कपड़ों के बारे में जागरूकता बनाने की कोशिश में जुटे हैं। कैसे इनको दोबारा इस्तेमाल कर सस्टेनेबल फैशन की ओर बढ़ा जा सके। पिछले 4 महीनों से उन लोगों और ब्रांड्स के साथ मिलकर काम कर रहे हैं जो कपड़ों के रीसाइक्लिंग, अपसाइक्लिंग के प्रयास में जुटे हैं।
Well, hi Varnika and hi Nidhi. So good to be back on this campaign. Nidhi, you've given us a big picture, but it all boils down to we keep thinking, what can I do to, stop this problem or at least not contribute to this? And, after our last show, I really got thinking. I went home, I rummaged through my wardrobe for clothes that I don't wear anymore, and I've been keeping them for what, I don't know, but my tastes have changed and so on. So then I got wondering about, what do I do with them? It's not enough to just throw them out. Will they end up in a landfill? How do I know they'll actually get used by somebody who can have some need for them and will enjoy them like I've enjoyed them? Well, that's why we've decided this. We know that many of you would probably have the same problem. So we're going to be running this graphic on the screen with phone numbers and addresses of NGOs across India. So whichever city you're living in, you can look them up and they will accept clothes and use them either for recycling or for upcycling. So that said, I just want to start. I think we should start by giving a shout out to all of our sustainability warriors, the brands, the individuals we've covered in the last 3 months who through upcycling, recycling and ethical sustainable processes are giving clothes a conscience.
So far, in Clothes with a Conscience, we talked about the crippling impact of the fashion industry.
These wastes were actually going into landfills or incinerators or dumped in very inappropriate manner. That was leading to a lot of pollution.
And ways to make it more sustainable.
These fabrics grow without chemicals. So that makes it better for the farmers to farm anything else as well.
Through our platform, we built a conversation around recycling, upcycling, climate change and zero waste.
When we work with the flowers and herbs, we are actually working with the raw material, which is actually a wastage for some.
We are recycling old shoes, which is good for environment.
But we're not done yet. There's more on the season finale of Clothes with a Conscience.
And we're thrilled and honored to introduce our panelists for today as we wrap up this campaign for this grand finale. We have Chaya Bhanti, founder of Vertiver, a sustainability behavior change specialist. Ankita Katuri, co-founder of the Smarketeers. We have Darshana Gajare, head of Sustainability Rise Worldwide. Karishma Shahani Khan, creative director at Kasha. Karishma, to you first. You've been a designer for more than a decade now. You've seen the evolution of the fashion industry in India. Do you think we're ready to embrace slow, sustainable fashion in a meaningful way?
I think definitely we are. I mean, thank you for having me here. And, I'm so excited to be a part of this conversation. I think we definitely are. And we sometimes really forget that as Indians, we've always been doing this. It's not a new concept for us. It's something that we've embraced all through our history. So it's only obvious that we go back to it and now take it forward in a new way. So I totally think this is the time, and I'm really excited to see all the work happening around. There's been a lot of new things happening, a lot of changes, a lot of new models of business that have actually been created because of this new way of looking at, upcycling, recycling, and taking our tradition forward.
Certainly new models like sustainability behavior change specialist. Chaya, great to have you on the show. I'd never even heard of something like that growing up. So I'm so glad you made like the space for yourself. But how does one affect behavior change in consumers, especially when it comes to fast fashion, and especially when we're dealing with a relatively young population? Because Karishma talked about how it's in our DNA, right? That we say we don't throw away our clothes, we pass them on to someone else. But is that still the same with the next generation, the younger Indians, post-liberalization Indians?
Well, I feel that the young people today are bombarded with aspirational messages much more than they ever have been before. So even though many of them are trying to hold on to the traditional practices that they see in their own homes, grandparents, etc., they are aiming for things that are, deeply aspirational, that are very, very manufactured. So the way behavior change theory says that you need to understand the knowledge, practices and norms of people, and then you change their beliefs. But because of the urgency of the sustainability work and the climate action work that lies ahead of us, I feel that we do kind of need a cultural revolution. I feel that we need to kind of hijack, just like you are all doing at NDTV, hijack the branding touch points and the communication touch points to embed and subliminally embed the same kind of a glamour and excitement about going back than we do about like kind of having to mimic all the things that are coming down to us. So yes, we do need it to happen at various different levels. It's a very, very subliminal, tricky work. But we do need to get to where youth are talking and youth are present, Instagrams, etc. And just need to introduce and model better behavior across the board from all kinds of influencers. We need to get the influencers to actually model that behavior. That's, of course, we all know that.
Sure.
बिल्कुल सोशल मीडिया का ज़माना है, इन्फ्लुएंसर्स बहुत मददगार साबित होंगे। दर्शना जी, आप कई स्टेक होल्डर्स के साथ काम कर रही हैं और सस्टेनेबिलिटी लाए जाए प्रयास कर रही हैं। इसमें बड़े डिज़ाइनर्स भी हैं, छोटे ब्रांड्स भी हैं। इसे और व्यापक बनाया जा सके, यानी कि और लोगों तक पहुँचे, क्या आंकलन है आपका? हमारे देश में हम कितना बढ़ सकते हैं इस राह में?
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for having me. I think it's been an absolute pleasure. So we basically run Lakme Fashion Week and a lot of other initiatives as part of sustainability. And Karishma has been one of our key partners in a lot of initiatives. And it gives me great pleasure to say that we started off with Indian handlooms, textiles, and we've moved to the future of sustainable fashion, where we are seeing beautiful conversions of technology, designers, and supply chain partners. When we talk about multi-stakeholders, the future of sustainability is really collaborative, and we have people who are doing great innovation on the textile front. We work extensively with even commercial brands that are really sustainable. So it could be Tencel, it could be recycled PET bottle yarns by Arlan or Woolmark or even Bemberg. But also there are smaller innovators, who are doing, let's say, leather alternatives out of discarded flower waste, which is full of leather. Then we work with innovators who are making textiles out of agricultural waste. And, we also go and do collaborations with designers, because innovation is one thing, but to really see whether designers and brands can adopt it to really make a business case for it is basically where we are standing in right now. If I say that what the future looks like, I think it's really, really bright. Also, I'm a hopeless optimist. So every time we talk about sustainability, there are two kinds of people I feel who say कि अरे बहुत बड़ा problem and we don't have a solution. But I always try to see a silver lining in whatever that's happening in the industry. So I think, to answer your question, multi-stakeholder activation is very, very important. We are also working, upstream and downstream. We are running programs with the Ministry of Textiles and the UN in India. And we also have an entire conglomerate to say, where we have 16 of India's largest retailers come together to make a voluntary commitment under our program called SURE, which stands for Sustainable Resolution, where they've taken a commitment to become more sustainable in all their practices. So it could be sourcing good materials, looking at what sort of energy they are using, seeing how efficient their retail stores are. So there's a lot of stuff happening, and we're very, very excited to see what's in store for us in the future.
Absolutely, Darshana, and it's so nice to see, Sarah, that all youngsters are really deep thinking on these issues. Darshana, फैशन इंडस्ट्री पर्यावरण के साथ मिलकर आगे बढ़े, ये आपका एक तरह से लक्ष्य, टारगेट है. लैक्मे फैशन वीक में जो इवेंट्स हुए, उसमें आपने इन कदमों को लागू किया है. क्या मायने इसके और क्या-क्या कदम आपने वहां पर उठाए थे?
So I think I would like to, also use this platform to say that fashion and climate are very, very together. Fashion weeks in itself also have a very huge carbon footprint. From this season onwards, we're also trying to see how we can make the event itself conscious. How can we look at our carbon emissions? How can we work with designers? How can we work with the entire fraternity to say that we use better materials, we use reusable materials? To give you a breakdown on the things that we are doing, we run India's largest award for sustainability, which is 4 years old now. It is called the Circular Design Challenge. We run this program with our partners, Arlan and UNEP and UN in India. The idea of this program is to really give platform to budding designers who are looking at circularity. I think we're at a stage where the conversation has gone ahead of sustainability and we're talking about circularity. So sustainability does talk a lot about ethics and environment and social, but circularity is a little more deeper than that, and it can actually start from design. So how do we really design products where we know that they can have a longer life? There is an entire life cycle analysis which is done at the design stage. So a lot of the people right now talking about recycling, so wo afterthought ho jata hai. The problem, the process with circularity is that you really lay down that entire process and say that how can each aspect of the supply chain or my fashion product can come back to maybe a production or a reuse or a recycle. So it's more consciously made.
Wow.
We also... Sorry.
No. I was just wanting to pick up on what you said. Once you've designed the product, it doesn't end there, right? Like, how do we then market it? Because someone has to buy it. So, Ankita, perhaps you can help us with that, because you're, as the co-founder of Smarketeers, you're a marketing person. How does one market slow fashion? How can slow fashion be cool?
Honestly, I feel like it all boils down to your own personal style. Like, that's what it was for me. So a lot of it was I have honestly myself shopped a lot of fast fashion, and I mean, this is mostly like crop tops and things like that, but they make such great pairings with, the sarees that I've bought that are, handloom, and that I'm like, purchases that I'm actually like proud of. But to sort of justify those purchases, I need, these things, like these crop tops or whatever that I've bought, to sort of actually make like a proper outfit. So I think, instead of focusing on what are the new things you can buy, I think the focus should be on what you can do with your existing wardrobe, which is actually a lot if you actually start looking into it. And this is something I realize every time I'm, sort of like reorganizing my wardrobe and I see all the things that I own and all the different pairings I can make with them. In fact, there are, shirts that I can pair with like a sari or like, long, short dresses that would actually work as like a kameez. But like there's different ways to wear what you already have in your wardrobe. And I think that's where you should really start. And that's what I did. And I have a great time with it. I enjoy it. You just have to, look at different ways you can style it, whether it's jewelry or the pairings that you're changing or the shoes that you're changing, whatever it is. But just become more inventive with what you already own.
Well, Ankita, you have a massive social media presence, and I'm one of those who follow you. And
oh my gosh, that's flattering.
No, I have for a long time, and you talk about sustainable fashion. But there's so many fashion influencers out there who are constantly putting out new content, new trends, new looks, new outfits. It's so hard to keep up. And it's pressure on you, right, when you're looking at them. So that plays a role in consumers being attracted to fast fashion, buying more, using less. Did you think that your style, as you put it, your personal style, your personal taste would click with, your followers, with people on Instagram who choose to follow you? Or were you pleasantly surprised?
Again, I think this is, I was honestly very pleasantly surprised because what I had actually even started off with was just sharing outfit of the day photos when I was going to work. And it was because I was in a field, like I run this Marketers, which is a B2B software technology, like we work with B2B software technology companies. So there's not like a whole lot of like this sort of creativity that I can bring to it. So Instagram was sort of like my escape, I guess, but I enjoyed it so much. I was able to be consistent with it. And you know what? I was pleasantly surprised with the number of people who really wanted to go down that road because they wanted to go buy fabric in the market and like get it stitched by someone and like, sort of see it come together like in front of your eyes. And I think, I was honestly quite surprised. And also it made me love the whole journey a lot more because I didn't grow up in India. So for me to like, get into this was like a whole lot of learning just even for myself, just to find all the different crafts that were made here. And it's super exciting. Like even now, I think that's what really drives me to, even do whatever I do on Instagram or like on social media. I just love the crafts that we have here. And every day I am amazed by the things that I find, whether that's in jewelry or clothing or, whatever it is. But just, I think it's amazing. And I think if I were to even play like a small part in getting people to actually recognize the kind of karigari and the the talent that we have within our country, I think I would have like done more than my job.
बिल्कुल अंकिता, बहुत सही आप कह रही हैं. एक हम दर्शकों को एक खबर दिखाते हैं. तो कपड़ों की शॉपिंग किसे पसंद नहीं है. कभी कभी तो ये एक थेरेपी की तरह भी काम करती है, लेकिन खुशी लाने के साथ साथ कुछ लोगों के लिए एडिक्टिव शॉपिंग भी हो जाती है कभी कभी. तो हम अपनी इस मुहिम के साथ आपको जागरूक करना चाहते हैं कि कपड़े खरीदते समय ध्यान रखें कि पर्यावरण का नुकसान ना हो. तो नए कपड़े फैशन में जो आते हैं, स्लो फैशन कहा जाता है, एक नया फैशन कहा जाता है, फास्ट फैशन. तो खरीदारी समझदारी से करें और उसके मायने क्या हैं, क्या होता है स्लो फैशन या फास्ट फैशन, देखते हैं ये रिपोर्ट.
You've heard the terms fast fashion and slow fashion, but what do they actually mean? And why is one more expensive than the other? Well, fast fashion is cheap clothing that's mass-produced by machine and sold at breakneck speed in order to keep up with the latest style that's trending in that moment. Pieces are produced as quickly as possible to get them out in the market before styles change and a new collection comes along. These mass-produced clothes are low in price but often also low in quality. It makes high couture style accessible and affordable, but there is a much higher price we're all paying for it without realizing. Slow fashion focuses on simple, timeless designs and uses ethical, sustainable materials that are built to last for years. It's a more mindful way of shopping that encourages the use of locally produced biodegradable materials and prioritizes people and the planet. The price tag of sustainable fashion is greater than that of fast fashion brands, but there is a reason for it. Slow fashion is produced in the most sustainable way possible. This involves prioritizing the environment, using ethically sourced materials, reducing water waste, adopting small-scale production, and paying a fair wage to the workers. Also, once you're done wearing these fabrics, they can eventually reintegrate into the ecosystem by creating less waste and not ending up in landfills. While it's true that slow fashion has a monetary cost, fast fashion actually comes at a much higher price. It isn't our wallet that pays this price, but our body and environment. We're all bearing the brunt. So the next time we buy the latest fashion only to discard it a few weeks later, let's ask ourselves, how much are we actually paying for being trendy?
All right, so Karishma, now let me ask you, as a well-known fashion designer, we've just heard Ankita and how she uses her Instagram account. How can you use your fame, your clout, your ability to influence people to bring a change in how they approach fashion or what they use fashion for?
Yeah, no, I think basically people don't realize how important clothing is. They think clothing is just such a trivial industry, or you're a fashion designer because maybe you didn't do anything else. I got that a lot when I started out. But no one realizes that we actually impact a lot of different, parts of our work. A piece of clothing goes from right from your farmer all the way up till your, a person who's purchasing it. So the hands that touch the clothing are very, very diverse, a lot of them. So I feel like we as a brand, we keep trying to talk about this to say that, clothing, sustainability as a word, to be honest, we don't even say we're a sustainable brand. That's not what we're trying to go out and say we are. What we're saying is it's a value. It's a value that we practice where you're bringing in certain, you're treating people well, you're using material mindfully, you're disposing things properly. So for us, when we make a product through our social media, through our product itself, when a person purchases it, there are tags on it that talk about the process, how many hours it took, who made the product. It's about educating the customer also so they understand why they're paying that price. Of course, it costs a lot more than fast fashion because there's a lot more hours of work, people's time, people's effort that goes in, and everyone's paid fairly, like that video just spoke about. So as a brand, our job is to educate the customer so they understand what they're buying and then what they can do with it also later. In fact, on our website, we also have a mend and repair service where you can buy a Kasha product after a few years, after a few wears. If there's a problem with it, we're happy to mend and repair that for you. We've also started a new thing on our website with Relove, where it's a technology where we can actually get the customer who's purchased a Kasha product to come back and sell it to someone else who wants to buy it. So we're trying to really close that circular system that Darshana spoke about and trying to be how can we be mindful from the get-go till the end of that product and have a way of controlling that, have a way of being a part of that. So the consumer who's buying into a Kasha product or the Kasha story that we're talking about knows where to go for what they need even when their use is over. So I think our job is to educate our customer and be able to provide enough information to them that they know why they're buying it, what they've purchased, and how they can let go of it later when they want to. So really, that's the way we try. I mean, there's a lot more work to be done, of course, but that's one of our ways.
जी छाया, मेरा सवाल आपसे, आप निफ्ट के सस्टेनेबल फैशन के कंसल्टेटिव ग्रुप में हैं, क्या होता है इसमें और क्या महत्व है कि इंस्टीट्यूशनल लेवल में ही शुरुआत हो जाती है जब इसकी?
देखिए, निफ्ट के मतलब बच्चों को हम पिछले 7-8 साल से हायर कर रहे हैं हमारे वेटरवेयर में, और मैंने ये देखा है पिछले 4 साल से एक अलग सा ट्रांसफॉर्मेशन आ गया है ऑलरेडी। मैं एक डॉक्टर वर्षा गुप्ता प्रोफेसर के साथ काम करती हूँ जो एक पूरी सस्टेनेबिलिटी करिकुलम को फिर से रीडिफाइन कर रही है यूनेप के साथ। और इसमें जो मैंने डिफरेंस देखा है वो आजकल पिछले 3-4 साल से जो हमारे बच्चे आए हैं वो ऑलरेडी, क्योंकि उनको ऑलरेडी करिकुलम में दिखाया जाता है कि सस्टेनेबिलिटी एक जरूरी चीज है और इसके लिए आपको जो भी चाहे आप प्रोडक्ट्स डिजाइन कर रहे हैं, फैशन प्रोडक्ट्स डिजाइन कर रहे हैं, आपको या तो उनको सर्कुलर बनाना है या उनमें रिसाइकल मटेरियल ढूंढना है। तो जो बच्चे अब पिछले 2-3 साल में हमारे पास आ रहे हैं वो वाकई में ये क्वेश्चंस लेके आते हैं कि हाउ कैन आई ट्रूली बी सस्टेनेबल। ये जब हम लोगों ने 8 साल पहले शुरू किया था वो एक डिफरेंट था। तो ऑलरेडी हम देख रहे हैं कि जो एम्फेसिस है उस पर पड़ रहा है और लोग उसको शुरुआत करें, तो जो सस्टेनेबिलिटी करिकुलम है उसमें पूरी की पूरी तरह से फोकस यही रहेगा कि जो अपैरल इंडस्ट्री है वो अच्छी तरह से हाउ कैन वी एक्चुअली क्रिएट कंप्लीट सर्कुलैरिटी, उसमें बिल्कुल उनका पुनर्चक्रण कैसे हो उन सारे कपड़ों का, ताकि जैसे आप बाकी सारे पैनलिस्ट बता रहे हैं कि वो कभी भी एक लूप से बाहर ना जाएं, जो एक तरह से एक या तो उसको एक सर्कुलर मटेरियल ही बढ़िया हो ताकि वो इतना लॉन्ग टर्म में बने कि वो एक एयरलूम बन जाए अपने आप में, या अगर आप उसको बना रहे हैं तो ऐसी चीज़ों से बनाएं जो रिसाइकल मटेरियल हो, जिसका वाटर फुटप्रिंट, कार्बन फुटप्रिंट वगैरह बहुत कम हो, तभी तो ये सब चीज़ें अब करिकुलम में आ रही हैं। एंड आई एम वेरी हैप्पी टू सी निफ्ट एंड वेरियस अदर कॉलेजेस ऑल्सो टेक दिस अप, जो मैंने पिछले 4-5 साल में काफ़ी बड़ा ट्रांसफॉर्मेशन देखा है। सो आई एम वेरी होपफुल.
So glad to hear that there's an interest in this. Darshana, you also host a podcast that aims to simplify sustainability. Can you simplify it for our viewers right now? What should it mean for them?
I think I would just like to go back to what Karishma started with. It's really simple for Indians to understand sustainability. It really means, if we take in the context of fashion, I think the most sustainable garment is which is already lying in your wardrobe. And at any point, if you are ever in doubt, the mantra is to take a minute and think about what your grandmom would have done, and that would be your answer. But if I have to sort of elaborate it, it's really not that difficult. I think there are a lot of complexities that are building now. There is also a decent amount of greenwashing that's happening. So I think it's important for the consumer to sort of see through that information and understand what is right and what is wrong. So I would also say that there is a little pressure on the consumer as of now to see through all of that data. So simple yahi hai ki look at the labels, understand what materials mean, do a little research on your own, but really go back to your wardrobe, style something that you already have, and maybe just follow what Ankita has been able to do beautifully, and you'll have your answer.
बिल्कुल, बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद इन सुझावों के लिए। आप लोग जुड़े, इसका बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद आपका। तो फास्ट फैशन हो या स्लो फैशन, आप समझ सकते हैं कि ज़्यादा दाम किसके होंगे। अब वार्डरोब स्वैपिंग या वार्डरोब की अदला बदली की बात हो रही है और वानिका हमें बताएंगी क्या मिला उन्हें।
We are meeting Nancy Bhasin, the founder of the swapping app This For That. The last time we met her was at the start of this campaign, and she helped us understand how swapping can increase the lifespan of clothes. Today she will help us make the process of swapping easier, not just for me but for you all. Hi Nancy.
Hi Vanika.
So Nancy, swapping is all about owning pre-loved clothes, but my biggest concern is the hygiene. How does the app ensure that the clothes that I'm choosing are clean, also true to size?
So Vanika, let me just start off by saying even the clothes that you purchase fresh off the rack in a shop or online are chemical laden and not hygienic at all to wear, right? So the first thing that you need to do when you receive anything is to give it a thorough wash before you wear it. Same as for swapped clothes as well, right? So definitely give it a wash even if it's been washed and ironed by your fellow swapper. But having said that, This For That is a community where people interact with each other, and they have to stay in the same community. So if you've sent something that's not hygienic, the other person will call you out, right? So because you have that pressure, you definitely want to make sure that the experience for the fellow swapper is great. So that's one way that this gets taken care of automatically. About your sizing question, so we have detailed breakup that we take at the time of uploading. It's not just a dress size like an S or an M, but you also have to kind of add the bust size, the waist size, the upper waist, lower waist, and then of course there's direct messaging on the app. So any woman who's actually taking a garment or shoes or whatever actually asks for tape measurements, right? So that's one way of ensuring that the product that you get is absolutely true to size.
Also Nancy, is there a way for your team to check if the item that I've chosen is damaged or not?
So Vanika, like I said, at the time of uploading, we take a lot of information. There is a complete condition field that you need to input while uploading, and there is a field called defective and damaged. So in case there's a defect or damage with your item, and we understand, these are regular people trading their clothes with each other. So there can be a one-off stain or a stitch coming off. You can always select the exact condition field and reveal the defect to your fellow swapper, right? And so that's one way of doing it. The other way is, of course, if you receive an item that is damaged for whatever reason, if it got messed up in transit, or if your fellow swapper, as a one-off misrepresented the item, you can always raise a return request to us We investigate the case thoroughly and provide you a resolution.
Also, what if I choose an item from a high-end brand, but when it gets delivered to me, it turns out to be fake or a first copy?
So on this, for that, we have zero tolerance for fakes. In fact, we put this up very clearly. Even if people absolutely declare that they're uploading a fake or a first copy, we reject it outrightly, saying that, hey, this for that is not this platform. We only take originals. For any high-end brands, we take multiple proofs.
And Nancy, my last question would be, is the item that I'm getting, is it a first time hand-me-down or is it a second time hand-me-down? Like, is there a way to know that?
It can be a second time hand-me-down, but those cases are rare because these are, owners actually putting up, you and me actually putting up our clothes because we want to declutter our closets. But in case somebody, thrifted it online, or, Instagram's thriving with thrift stores these days, right? So if somebody picked it up and did not like it for whatever reason, they always specify that, listen, I thrifted this and it's not working out for me. So again, because we're a community, we're all about trust and transparency, and people actually get to know each other and correspond with each other. So there's that level of assurance in every swap.
Thanks, Nancy, for answering all our questions. I hope now you have all the answers to the questions you had about swapping. So now no need to buy more clothes. Get to swapping right away.
Globally, around 10% of textile, only 10% gets reused. The rest all goes to landfills. And so we spoke with people in one of Delhi's biggest centers for street fashion, Sarojini Nagar, and this is what they had to say about how they dispose of their clothes.
पुराने कपड़ों का आप क्या करते हैं?
पुराने कपड़े हमारे रिटर्न चले जाते हैं।
जो पुराने कपड़े होते हैं, जैसे मेरी बेटी के या मेरे, तो मैं अपनी मेड को दे देती हूँ, या जिसको नीड हो उसे मैं अपने पुराने कपड़े दे देती हूँ।
पुराने कपड़ों का यूज क्या होना है, फेंक देते हैं तो।
I usually don't like throw it all. Many workers and the maids are working, so I usually give to the poor families or to the needed ones.
जितना ज़्यादा से ज़्यादा सेल हो जाए, एक बिट भी अगर कुछ रुक भी जाता है तो हम लोग को जो हमारी संस्थाएं बनी हुई हैं, जो हमारे से टाई अप रखती हैं, हम लोग उनको जाके दे देते हैं।
Most of the times with my clothes, I try to recycle it as much as possible.
हमारे जो पुराने कपड़े हो जाते हैं, हम कालका मंदिर जाते हैं, वहाँ गरीब लोग बैठे तो उनको देते हैं, किसी का भला तो हो।
Mostly I donate because I just want to see the smile on the faces of those who deserve to wear good clothes but they can't afford.
हम अपने बुटीक पे भेज देते हैं एंड वहाँ पे अपने आप मतलब और उसको परफेक्ट डिजाइन करके हम यहाँ पे ले आते हैं।
ज़्यादातर पुराने कपड़ों को या तो सेल में लगा देते हैं या फेंक दिया जाता है।
काफ़ी सारा पुराना होता है तो उसको फेंक देते हैं या फिर जला देते हैं।
तो आपने सुना, जला देते हैं, फेंक देते हैं। हमारे देश में ही 10 लाख टन कपड़ा फेंकता है। एक आंकलन के अनुसार 2050 तक देश को दिल्ली के बराबर तक अंबार लगाने की जगह चाहिए होगी। तो कूड़ा फेंकने की इन जगहों में प्लास्टिक, रबर, इलेक्ट्रॉनिक वेस्ट, गीला कचरा, बायो वेस्ट और बड़ी मात्रा में कपड़ा होता है। और इनका क्या असर हम सब पर पड़ रहा है, देखिए खास रिपोर्ट।
हम कभी न कभी इस मुहावरे का इस्तेमाल जरूर करते हैं कि आपके पास तो समस्याओं का पहाड़ है। हमारी दिल्ली के पास एक नहीं, दो नहीं, बल्कि तीन इस तरह की समस्याओं के पहाड़ हैं और 3 अलग अलग दिशाओं में 3 अलग अलग जगहों पर। ये मैं इस वक्त भलसुआ लैंडफिल साइट पर मौजूद हूं। एक ये पहाड़ है कचरे का, दूसरा गाजीपुर लैंडफिल साइट है, उसकी भी ऊंचाई कुतुब मीनार से भी ऊंची बताई जा रही है, और जो तीसरा कचरे का पहाड़ है वो ओखला में है। ये जो कचरे के पहाड़ हैं दिल्ली के तीनों, ये घटने के बजाय, कम होने के बजाय ये लगातार बढ़ रहे हैं, और बढ़ने के वजह से वायु और जल, ये दोनों प्रदूषण जो है वो भारी तादाद में हो रहा है और उससे लाखों लोग प्रभावित हो रहे हैं कैंसर, दमा, अस्थमा जैसी बीमारियों से। सरकार ने दशकों लगाए हैं इस कचरे के पहाड़ को खत्म करने के लिए, लेकिन वो खत्म नहीं कर पाई। तो आज हम सरकार की भूमिका पर बात करने के लिए नहीं आए हैं, बल्कि एक सोसाइटी के तौर पर ये जो कचरे का पहाड़ है ये हमें हरा रहा है। तो हम लोग क्या कर सकते हैं, हमारी इसमें क्या भूमिका हो इस कचरे के पहाड़ को हटाने में, इस पर बातचीत करने के लिए हमारे साथ में चिंतन की जो डायरेक्टर हैं भारती जी वो हमारे साथ में है और इनके पास में ढेर सारा डेटा है इसके मुतल्लिक और तमाम सारी जानकारियां हैं और इनसे हम इस बात के लिए भी पूछेंगे कि हम और आप क्या भूमिका अदा कर सकते हैं इस कचरे के पहाड़ को हटाने के लिए। भारती जी, सबसे पहला सवाल यही है आपसे कि हम अपने घरों से कचरा निकालकर इत्मीनान से बैठ जाते हैं कि ये सरकार की जिम्मेदारी है।
हाँ।
हमारी क्या जिम्मेदारी है?
सबसे पहले तो इतना कचरा निकालने नहीं चाहिए घर से, ये तो नंबर 1 जिम्मेदारी है।
हाँ।
यानी कि 50% तो गीला है, प्लीज खाद बना लीजिए, जैसे कि आपने परदादी ने बनाया होगा, जैसे कई अकल वाले लोग बनाते हैं। कुछ नहीं चाहिए, गमला चाहिए, अकल चाहिए, ज्यादा टाइम भी नहीं चाहिए। नंबर 2, चीजें कम इस्तेमाल करिए ताकि ये चीजें आपको फेंकनी नहीं पड़े। जैसे कि कपड़े, कोई जरूरी नहीं है कि बहुत ज्यादा कपड़े हों, क्योंकि कपड़े स्पेशली क्योंकि 50% कपड़े पॉलिएस्टर होते हैं और इंडिया में हम लोग 1 मिलियन टन कूड़ा कपड़ों का कूड़ा फेंक देते हैं लैंडफिल पे। तो हमको ऐसी चीजें बहुत कम करनी है ताकि कूड़ा ही नहीं हो फेंकने के लिए।
अच्छा भारती जी, ये बताइए कि आप कह रही हैं कि कपड़ा भी प्लास्टिक की शक्ल में इस कचरे के पहाड़ पर आता है और नष्ट नहीं होता है। ये कैसे?
बिल्कुल, क्योंकि इंडिया में ऑलमोस्ट 50% कपड़े पॉलिएस्टर के बनते हैं। अच्छा। पॉलिएस्टर वही चीज है जो प्लास्टिक है, एक प्लास्टिक का रूप है जो कपड़ों में आता है, बहुत सस्ता है और लॉन्ग लास्टिंग है, आसानी से सूख जाता है, लोग पॉलिएस्टर पहनते हैं। और तो इसीलिए जब ये हम लोग जैसे किसी को दे देते हैं, हमारे लिए छोटा हो गया या जो भी होए, कई फैंसी कपड़े भी अब पॉलिएस्टर के आते हैं, तो आप बोलते हैं ये देखो फैशनदार था, ये रंग या ये स्टाइल अब ना रहा, तो दे दिया किसी को, तो उसने भी पहना थोड़ा बहुत, फिर फेंक दिया। बटन्स भी आते हैं वगैरह वगैरह, तो फिर पोंछे के काम नहीं आता, ज्यादा काम नहीं आता, तो फेंक दिया जाता है फाइनली। अच्छा। तो वो भी एक टाइप का प्लास्टिक है।
अब हम थोड़ा ये समझने की कोशिश करेंगे कि अक्सर ये देखा गया है कि हम लोग अपने घरों से तो कचरा निकाल देते हैं जी। और हमारे घर से अगर इस तरीके की लैंडफिल दूर है, हाँ। तो हम ये मानकर बैठ जाते हैं कि हम बहुत सुरक्षित हैं, हमको क्या है, आसपास के लोगों को नुकसान होगा।
हाँ, तो ये बिल्कुल गलत है, क्योंकि आपको याद होगा और ये अक्सर होता है कि लैंडफिल में आग लगती है, तो वो पूरा प्रदूषण फैल जाता है, एयर पोल्यूशन। और हवा से ये एयर पोल्यूशन सिर्फ एयर में नहीं रहता, ये नॉर्थ दिल्ली में है, नॉर्थ दिल्ली से साउथ दिल्ली हवा उड़ती है कई बार, विंड फ्लो, तो आप ही अपने कूड़े को अपने फेफड़ों में डाल रहे हैं और अपने बच्चों के फेफड़ों में भी। नंबर 1। नंबर 2, ये जो पानी नीचे, ये जो कूड़े से मिला हुआ, जो अभी बारिश हो रही है, हम लोग जो देख रहे हैं, और जो वैसे भी ओस होती है, सब मिल के गंदा सा सूप होता है, जहरीला लीचेट, वो चला जाता है नीचे ग्राउंड वाटर में। तो ग्राउंड वाटर, आप चाहे गरीब आदमी हो जो हैंड पंप से निकाल रहा है पानी, या आप कोई फैंसी टाइप हो जो ट्यूबवेल से एक्स्ट्रा पानी ले रहे हैं अपने फार्म हाउस के लिए, आप अपना कचरा ही पी रहे हैं।
अच्छा मैम, ये भी हम जानना चाहेंगे कि रिसाइकल करके किस तरीके से हम कचरे को कम कर सकते हैं?
सबसे बड़ी बात है कि हम रीयूज करें। जैसे कि मान लीजिए कि आपके घर में एक सूटकेस है और उस सूटकेस का चेन टूट गया, 2 बार आपने ठीक कराया मोची से या वो चेन वाले से, उसके बाद भी कुछ खराब है तो पैच लगाइए। सबसे पहले तो रीयूज करिए, रिसाइकल के पहले। जो रिसाइकलिंग होती है, ये कई बार हम लोग, जैसे जूते हैं या कुछ खराब हो गया, रिपेयर कराने के बाद ही सोचना चाहिए कि जब ये रिपेयर होने लायक नहीं है तब हम रिसाइकिल करें। रिसाइकिल बड़ा सिंपल है, हर मोहल्ले में, भारत के हर मोहल्ले में कबाड़ी वाला होता है, वेस्ट पिकर होता है, तो उसको पकड़ा दीजिए।
तो निश्चित तौर में लैंडफिल साइट अगर आपके घर से दूर भी है तो कहने का मतलब ये है कि आप इससे बचे नहीं रह सकते हैं, क्योंकि ये हवा पानी के ज़रिए कहीं ना कहीं आपके शरीर में पहुंच रही है। तो इसको हटाना सिर्फ सरकार की जिम्मेदारी नहीं है, बल्कि हमारी और आपकी भी एक ताकतवर भूमिका होनी चाहिए, ताकि इस तरीके के कूड़े के पहाड़ ख़त्म हो सके और हम आने वाली पीढ़ी को एक साफ़ सुथरी हवा और पानी दे सकें।
Use less, throw less. Thank you, Bharti, for that very simple and easy to remember message. Let's bring in Pradeep Tripathi joins us now. Thank you so much, Pradeep, founder of Green Yatra. You know, you saw a reporter out there at the Bhalswa landfill. We believe you've actually planted an urban forest known as the Miyawaki forest near Bhalswa. Tell us about that. Why was this needed and why did you choose Bhalswa?
We are doing the urban forest plantation using the Miyawaki methodology, and these are the cities like Mumbai, Delhi, NCR. All these cities there is a high pollution. In the opposite, the Bhalswa, we chose that ground. It was an experiment because in these kind of areas, generally the trees grow very slow. Conventional method is not the right method to do the plantation because it's taking lots of time to grow the trees. So just opposite side the Bhalswa dumping ground, there is a MCD land. So we planted almost 3,000 saplings, and it was like an experiment how it is growing. And within the almost 18 months, the sapling growth is almost 10 to 15 feet. They are growing well. Survival rate is above 90%. So that is what we are doing. And and now we got permission from MCD to do the whole patch of the plantation, that land. That is almost 1.5 acre land. So these tiny forests are the fast growing where the pollution is very high. We have a land crunch is the big issue. Getting a city like Mumbai, Delhi, NCR, in any mega city you go and find out. So getting the land is the big problem. So we choose this method. If you can see in my background, this is one of the largest Miyawaki forest we created in the Mumbai. It was like a landfill, not a landfill, but debris yard. Because where these gardens go in the Mumbai, and you will find all the land are debris filled, because these gardens generally developed by some builders, some municipal corporation. They dump these in debris, the rabbits area, what is generated from the old demolishing the old construction and the buildings, and then they leave these places. They put up to 1 feet. They put out the the lawn and do the lawn like a manicured and a makeup kind of things. They are not growing native species. So that's why, and I would like to share one of the largest, dumping yard in my background. I can share 1 minute. This, if you can see my background now.
Fabulous.
Yeah. So this is one of the dumping yard. So when we started this plantation in the Navi Mumbai Municipal Corporation, sapling we are not going, and this is just 18-month-old, not even 4-5-year-old. So these patches are very important where we can grow the fast-growing trees, where they can curb the pollution better than the conventional plantation. They are low maintenance free. And the most important thing, we are planting only native species. This method is getting very popularized across the India, across the globe. But the most of people are making the mistake. They are not doing the forest survey, forest study, climatic condition. कुछ भी उठाया नर्सरी से जाके native के नाम पे लगा दिया.
What worse nowadays? Palm planting.
बिल्कुल बिल्कुल.
Yeah, palm planting, acacia, rain tree, Gulmohar. You can see the Gulmohar. Even in the many cities in India, you will find the Gulmohar society, Gulmohar colony. Even in the Nilgiri, you go, so you are eucalyptus. The local name is the Nilgiri. Yeah. So this is not a right way. This is a very simple thing. So whenever you do the plantation, and why we shouldn't plant non-native trees? Very simple thing. If I say you won't find any birds roosting and nesting on these trees.
प्रदीप जी बिल्कुल इस पे बहुत दिलचस्प बातें आप बता रहे हैं हमें, क्योंकि आपका एक और इनिशिएटिव है, ग्रीन स्कूल प्रोग्राम आप चलाते हैं जहाँ बच्चों को पर्यावरण की जो हानि जो पहुंचाते हैं मुद्दे उनके बारे में पढ़ाया जाता है। तो क्या सिखाया जाता है, और जो इस समय बच्चे या उनके अभिभावक माता पिता देख रहे हैं उनको क्या आप टिप्स दे सकते हैं?
बेसिकली इसमें हमारा ये स्ट्रेस है कि जैसे आजकल आप बच्चों को देखिए, वी आर मोर पुटिंग लॉट्स ऑफ टाइम ऑन स्क्रीन टाइम। बच्चों को नेटिव स्पीसीज और पेड़ों के बारे में भी, उनको पेरेंट्स के बारे में भी पता नहीं है। सो हाउ टू गो ग्रीन इन डे टू डे लाइफ। यदि आप अभी आप बलसवा डंपिंग ग्राउंड और ये दिल्ली के डंपिंग ग्राउंड दिखा रहे थे, हर जगह शॉर्ट ऑफ स्पेस है। सो प्रॉब्लम ये नहीं है कि क्या कहते हैं हमारे पास जगह नहीं है अब डंप फेंकने की। सो इफ यू कैन अडॉप्ट द ग्रीन लाइफ स्टाइल। इफ आई टॉक अबाउट की ट्री प्लांटेशन इज नॉट ऑल्सो अ सोल्यूशन। आपके पास जगह नहीं है, जैसे डंपिंग यार्ड में जगह नहीं है, अभी हम रिसाइकलिंग कर रहे हैं। यदि हमने पहले डिसेंट्रलाइजेशन ऑफ वेस्ट यानी रिसाइकलिंग हम घर पे करते ये प्रॉब्लम आती ही नहीं। सो ग्रीन स्कूल्स में हम बच्चों को सेंसिटाइज कर रहे हैं कि जब आप प्लांटेशन करें तो नेटिव स्पीसीज लगाएं, यदि बड़े पेड़ की जगह नहीं तो देसी। आप देखिए हम रोजेज भी लगा रहे हैं ना, तो पीले येलो लगा रहे हैं पर नॉन नेटिव है, उसमें ना तो महक है ना कोई बायोडाइवर्सिटी होती, तितलियां अट्रैक्ट नहीं करते हैं। सो हाउ टू गो ग्रीन डे टू डे लाइफ। अभी मुंबई में मुंबई क्लाइमेट एक्शन प्लान पूरा सर्वे किया गया था, एशिया की पहली सिटी है जो ये प्लान ये कर रही है। और रीजन ये है कि एक सर्टेन टाइम के बाद मुंबई का ऑलमोस्ट काफी सारा एरिया सबमर्ज होगा। सो जब ये पूरा स्टडी हुआ तो उसमें ऑलमोस्ट जो 72% जो कार्बन इमिशन है वो हाउस होल्ड है, बिकॉज द सिटी लाइज वी आर नॉट इंडस्ट्रियल एरिया, वी आर रेसिडेंशियल एरिया। इवन दिल्ली में भी यही इशू है। सो गेटिंग रिड्यूसिंग कार्बन फुटप्रिंट एट द सोर्स मींस अडॉप्टिंग योर ग्रीन लाइफ स्टाइल। तो हम बच्चों को सेंसिटाइज कर रहे हैं और रीजन ये है कि we adults and the parents are so busy in our day to day life कि फर्क ही नहीं पड़ता। we have a lots of responsibilities and all, लेकिन यदि हम उनसे बात करते हैं तो बोले प्रदीप हमें पता है, वी नो दिस इज द प्रॉब्लम, वो घर पे जाके कभी भी शेयर
पता होना एक बात है, बिल्कुल सही आप कह रहे हैं, लेकिन जागरूकता से कदम उठाना दूसरी बात हो जाती है। तो आप जुड़े हमारे साथ, बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद। तो इस मुहिम के जरिए क्लोथ्स विद अ कॉन्शियंस, हमारी कोशिश है कि लोग फैशन के साथ पर्यावरण का भी ध्यान रखें। हर स्तर पर हल है हमारे पास, जरूरत है इच्छा शक्ति की। डिजाइनर्स हो, उत्पादक हो, नीति बनाने वाले हो और खासकर हम खरीदार। एक हल ये भी है कि पूछ सकते हैं कि कपड़ा किसने बनाया है। देवयानी कपूर हैं, फाउंडर हैं शफलिंग सूटकेसेस की, सुनते हैं।
We're a population of over 7.9 billion people with an ever-growing wardrobe. We wake up every single morning choosing what to wear from an endless wardrobe that keeps growing every single day, without realizing the global impact of the fashion industry on our entire environment. Every second, a rubbish truckload worth of clothes are either buried or put into the landfills. 80% of these clothes are made up of synthetic fibers that take about 2,000 years to decompose, out of which there's only 1% that either can be reused or recycled. The rest of all of them actually end up in the landfills. We wear and discard clothes without realizing our major responsibility towards the planet. Next time you go out to purchase a piece of garment, keep certain factors in mind so that you make a better choice for yourself as well as for the planet. These are the questions you should ask next time, both to yourself and to your favorite brands when you go out to purchase a piece of garment. The first question should always be, who made my clothes? When you ask who made your clothes, you actually open up a lot of other questions about transparency, and you also question your favorite brand about where their production is done and who is actually making the clothes. You also realize there's a real person stitching your garments. The second question that you should always ask is, what is in your clothes? As much as we are concerned about what we put inside our body, we should also be concerned about what we put on our body. When you ask what is in your clothes, you actually get to know the actual impact of the fabric that you're wearing, that your label might or might not tell you. The third question that you should always ask yourself is, how many times will you actually wear that garment? The number of times that you will wear that garment defines its life cycle and its presence on the earth. On an average, you only wear a garment about 7 times before you send it off to the landfills. The last and the very important question to ask yourself is, how will you close the loop? When you're done using the clothes, where will your clothes actually go? This question will help you answer if you really need that garment, or what will you do with the garment to increase the life cycle of the purchase that you're making. In either case, you'll do your bit by being a conscious consumer and buying clothes with a conscience.
कार्यक्रम में आगे बढ़ते हैं, हमारे साथ ऋतु अबरौल है, को फाउंडर क्लोथ्स बॉक्स फाउंडेशन की। ऋतु जी, हमें बताया गया कि आपके पास कपड़ों के इस्तेमाल जो अनयूज्ड हैं उनके बहुत अच्छे सुझाव हैं। कई लोगों के पास नए कपड़े खरीद लेते हैं लेकिन सालों साल पड़े रहते हैं, क्या किया जा सकता है?
बहुत कुछ किया जा सकता है। हम कपड़ों को रीपर्पस करते हैं, जिससे कि मेरे पास मान लीजिए आपका शर्ट आ गया, वो शर्ट एक्सेल साइज का है। फर्स्ट हम सेग्रीगेट करते हैं, जो कपड़े हमारे पास पहुंचते हैं वो डोनेशन के लिए उचित हैं। फिर उसके बाद साइज के मुताबिक हम उनको देखते हैं कि कहाँ दिया जा सकता है। अब कई बार होता है कि हमारे पास एक्सेल डबल एक्सेल साइज के कपड़े आ जाते हैं, तो हम उनको रीपर्पस करते हैं, उनमें से कुछ नया क्रिएट करते हैं। जैसे कि मान लीजिए एक टी शर्ट है मेरे पास, तो वो बहुत बड़े साइज का है, तो हम उसे कट करेंगे, बहुत सारे इकट्ठे करेंगे पहले, फिर कट करके हम उनका दोहर बना देते हैं। और कुछ ऐसे कपड़े हैं जिसका हम आजकल हमारा स्कूल बैग्स का प्रोजेक्ट चल रहा है, जो अंडर प्रिविलेज बच्चों को स्कूल बैग बना के देते हैं। हमने जो दोहर का प्रोजेक्ट शुरू किया था 2015 में, वो हम अबाउट 100 के करीब हमने शुरू में बनाए। फिर हमें पता चला कि इसकी बहुत ज्यादा डिमांड है, और अभी पिछले 7 सालों में अब इसकी डिमांड लाखों में हो रही है। स्पेशली विंटर्स में नॉर्थ इंडिया में बहुत ठंड होती है और कई लोगों के पास ओढ़ने के लिए भी कुछ नहीं होता, तो हम कपड़ों को जोड़ के 2 लेयर्स 3 लेयर्स और उसका एक मोटा दोहर बना देते हैं। और जो फुटपाथ पे रहने वाले हैं या लेबर होती है, वहां तक पहुंचा दिया जाता है इसको। सेकेंडली, जो अंडर प्रिविलेज बच्चे हैं, जैसे हमने किसी ड्राइव पे गए थे और हमने देखा कि बच्चे लिफाफों में किताबें लेके जा रहे हैं, तब हमें ये आइडिया आया कि क्यों ना इनके लिए एक बैग क्रिएट किया जाए, वो थोड़ा स्कूल जाने के लिए और पढ़ने के लिए मोटिवेट भी करता है। तो हमने ड्रॉ स्ट्रिंग बैग बनाए हैं, डबल लेयर लगा के कपड़ों की। इट्स मतलब मजबूत भी हैं। तो इस साल हम लोग 1.25 लाख ड्रॉ स्ट्रिंग बैग बनाने वाले हैं, जिसमें से 50,000 के करीब हम बना चुके हैं। बाकी हम ईयर एंड में पूरा कर लेंगे टारगेट, और ये ऑल इंडिया हमारे जाते हैं।
Fabulous. Well, thank you, Ritu, for this fabulous endeavor, and more power to you. Really wonderful to hear. Well, we've talked about upcycling old clothes, recycling them, giving them away for someone else to wear, but how about use clothes as art? Well, waste scraps of cloth have been most effectively been put to use to create art in Ayodhya. And if you ever visit Sitakund, watch out for the cloth turtle that has an important message for you and me.
This waste cloth would have ended up in a pile of garbage, or worse still, in one of the many ponds or kunds in Ayodhya. Instead, it has been given a second life, and indeed a very important purpose. The waste scraps of cloth were used to make an art installation as part of a community engagement program jointly organized by Mojato and the Ayodhya Development Authority. The purpose? To save Ayodhya's kunds from becoming garbage dumps. Mojato's Ayodhya Art Project aims at restoring the ponds and ghats, which are an integral part of the city's rich cultural heritage. Who would have thought that with a little imagination, old used clothes and waste scraps of cloth could have such a central role to play in the preservation of our environment and our heritage.
तो आप सब जुड़े, बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद। उम्मीद है कि आज से आप कपड़ों के मामले में समझदारी से आगे बढ़ेंगे।
Thank you so much. Let's all be part of the solution, not the problem. Thank you for joining us.